the federal government has more ish to worry about than what is going on in college athletics.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast, the global authority of coaching leadership where coaching wisdom meets real talk. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on today's Wind Up Wednesday edition, straight back from Indianapolis and the Final Four, we're going to talk about the enforcement era. There's an executive order out there that people want to know a little more about. We're going to try to help you understand that. We're going to talk about the upcoming 76-team NCAA Tournament. Don't know when it's going to happen, but I got it on good authority that it will happen. In segment 2, we're going to talk about roster management because that was the discussion all weekend and the death of amateurism. And in segment 3, we'll do the NBA week in review. We'll talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame class of 2026 and a little bit about the changing sports media. With us today, our basketball correspondent, Danny Thompson, and our academic and athletic consultant, George Ockard. Gentlemen, because of when the game gets played and when we air, we're not going to give you the high and low lights of the championship game. We will say, however, that Michigan's really darn good, and that Hurley guy can coach, but he's not very nice sometimes. But I'll digress. Here's what was going on in Indy. The federal government is getting involved with the executive order. So let's talk a little bit about the executive order and then get our panel's reaction. So a transformative executive order has shifted the landscape from a no consequences culture to one of high stakes federal oversight. Schools failing to comply with the new NCAA rules, specifically regarding the transfer limits and eligibility, now face the nuclear option, the potential of loss of federal grants and contracts. In a direct challenge to legal trends, the federal government is mandating a return to a one-time transfer. Athletes get one free move. A second move triggers a mandatory redshirt year unless a degree has been earned. And this aims to curb the blind transfer trend where 25% of FBS players enter the transfer portal during the 2026 cycle. We also want to eliminate, with this executive order, legal ambiguity in terms of cases like Chandler Morris and Joey Aguilar. A strict federal definition of eligibility has now been set. 5 years to play, 5 seasons, period. So now, one more thing. The data confirms a massive conference diversion because the SEC and Big Ten currently retain 97% of their elite players, while the ACC and the Big 12 have plummeted to about 56.8%. This suggests while high investment contract language, the University of Washington lesson, helps, the raw size of revenue sharing pool from the SEC and the Big Ten, not a lot of people are moving from there. George, I'm going to start with you because you're my academic guy. You've been an AD, you've been an administrator, you know what's going on. When this came across your desk, what was your thoughts, sir?
I laughed. I'm giggling. What is this? Is nothing. It's this is to me. This is done for votes, or to put it back. Put it back. Let's be honest. They're still upset because the Pandora's box got open, and now they're trying to close it. So you got people in Congress like Tommy Tuberville, who used to be football coach, going to try to we're going to put a handle on this to put it back to the way it was. You can't do it. It's done. Now it's time to sit down and negotiate some rules around it because right now, I think Jay Billis has had some of the best takes I've seen on this because the best thing you can do right now, I mean, if they go this route, because this is going to court once it happens, um, we're going to have to go to a situation. You're going to have to treat these kids young men, however you want to put it, like they're actual employees. And it's going to have to come down to it. two things are going to come out of this. And because this is the way I see it, this is more personal than it is anything else. And why I say that is because for so long, uh, student athletes committed not to a school, but to a coach. Okay. And when a student athlete decided, I'm want to leave, and the coach didn't give a damn if this environment that the school has might not be what he wanted or might be conducive for him. He took it personal as then you're leaving me in my program. I have built this. This is, and Keith, you can go ahead and you can talk about, because both of us have been through it. Because every coach referred to my program. They never said, oh, here at Duke University, it was always my program. When I can take you back to my recruiting journey, and I can tell you right now, during my recruiting journey, I committed because of a coach. I didn't commit because of the school. All right. When you take the freedom, when you take that lock, ball, and chain away from the kid, and now he has the opportunity to go shop a better situation, that's a personal slight to these coaches out here, because they see these schools as their fiefdom. So no, this is the old guard and the coaches who are still a bunch of them out there going to the president and being like, and they did it through Tommy Tuberville, they did, Nick Saban, who had ears to him, and they're going to go to him and, hey, we need to get this under control. But you notice in that executive order, there was nothing about limiting the schools in any way or holding them in penalty or in any way, limiting the amount of money they can get, or anything about coaches going from one space to another whenever they feel like it. It all penalizes the kid. So this is going to get challenged. This is why I laughed, because as soon as it hits court, it's going to be it's going to get thrown. It's not going to hold up. Some schools might act like they're going to fall in line, but the courts are going to go against it. This is going to be just like him getting rid of a bunch of the departments in the government. But a bunch of those got overturned. Now, this isn't the same that they won't come back, because this will come back, because college basketball, college football, college baseball is going to continue. So it's just comical, them trying to put Pandora back in the box, and it's not going to happen. These guys with this, oh, get off my front lawn, need to go. And they keep saying, oh, these kids make bad decisions. You're paying an 18-year-old $1 million freaking dollars. And you're worried now about, oh, what's he going to do with his life? What is he going to do for you is what you're worried about. You're not worried about what he's going to do for his life. Stop acting like you care. Stop acting like you care. It is the biggest crock of bullshit we've heard. All right, I'm off my soapbox. Go ahead, Dan.
All right, Danny. Let us try to maintain decorum. What did you think, Danny?
I mean, I've said this the entire time. The federal government has more ish to worry about than what is going on in college athletics. And the fact that they are diving into something they have no teeth in just shows that this whole executive order has it's null and void at this point. Like George said, y'all open the Pandora's box and you allowed NIL in. And now you want to close it? It's too late for that. You have already became engineers of chaos when you allowed this stuff to happen. It's too late to turn it around. You should have regulated this as soon as you open the box. But they were like, no, we're going to see how this goes. We're going to see where the chips fall and see what happens. Well, the chips are falling and y'all don't like it at this point. It's almost like you're acting like a little kid who's throwing a temper tantrum because he couldn't get his way in the toy store. Like, I want this. Well, you can't have it. Too bad. So now you're expecting college kids, and this is coming from a guy when I was recruited, and coach, you can relate to this. I was committing to the coach. I was not committing to the school. When Coach Brown came to me, hey, we had a conversation. When Coach came to me, when he was almost at every game, it was all me and him. We weren't worried about the program. We were worried about the relationship we had with each other. And it was to the point where I didn't give a damn about the school. I'm going to play for him. And that's all that mattered to me. So now what you're saying is players who don't like the situation. So let's just say coach, you recruit, you go to their program. Coach leaves, get the better opportunity. He was let go. Stuff like that happens. And I know because I've seen it twice in my college career. You want to leave for a better situation. You want to leave and go play for a coach you can commit to for the same situation. But now you're getting penalized if you do it more than once, unless you get a degree, which that has always been in the play. That was in play when I was in school. So what's the difference? What's the difference between this executive order that they're trying to do now compared to what was already done? And the fact that they went to a guy like Tommy Tuberville, who, I don't even want to get started on that. And then Nick Saban, coaches who have, don't get me wrong, outside of Nick Saban, who was in this from the beginning. He was there for this when all this got started. Tommy Tuberville has been out of the game since I was in high school. I don't care about his opinion. He has no say in this conversation whatsoever. He just wants it, like George said, he wants to go back to the old way, where coaches had control and players couldn't do a damn thing. That's what they want. And they don't like it now that the players have the power because they're getting paid, like you said, millions of dollars to be where they are. They don't like it. It's the whole monkey see, monkey do, but I don't like that monkey doing what I'm doing. They don't like it. So the whole executive order has no teeth whatsoever.
And what I'm laughing, what really makes me laugh about this, Keith, right now you brought up that stat of how the SEC and Big Ten keep their people versus the ACC and other schools. The minute this so-called executive order ruffles the feather of the LSU or Alabama, it'll be out the window because we'll be in court. We will be in court litigation up to your eyeballs. So I don't want to hear it. This is the biggest crock of bullcrap in known history. Like I said, you want everything about this executive order penalizes the kid. And it's for his best. Calipari was on the other day talking on earlier at the thing. He's talking about, well, we get what these kids didn't. What are they going to do? Where are they going to get a job? When have you ever worried about one of your kids getting a job, John Calipari? When? Please let me know. You recruit the kids so you can get them to the league. You've been paying them. These schools have been paying these kids under the table. Now that you do it legally, you have to pay them really what they're worth. You're not worried about them. And don't tell me about education. They're not going to graduate. They're talking about getting paid. Shut up. Shut up.
All right.
I know it hurts your feelings, Keith.
Man, the real life is real, and they're going through it. And NIL stands for not for long. I heard that all weekend. Okay, 76 teams come into March Madness, and that's going to be an interesting looking bracket. So the move toward a 76-team tournament mirrors the 2024 college playoff negotiations. Power conferences like the SEC and the Big Ten are leveraging the threat of a breakaway tournament to secure more access and a larger share of the $1 billion annual television revenue. The proposed expansion to 76 teams would add 8 at-large teams. The format features a 24-team opening round that replaces the first 4, played over 2 days at 2 sites. This is designed to ensure bubble teams from power leagues, who represent 75% of the last 4 out, get into the bracket. So now, does this mean the death of Cinderella? For the second consecutive year, no team outside the Power 5 basketball leagues, the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the Big East, reached the Sweet 16. Industry experts attribute this to a tilted playing field where top-tier roster values have reached $10 to $15 million, far outpacing the mid-major budgets like Utah State, who had $2.4 million. But wait, there's more. 2031, the current TV contract with CBS, Warner Brothers Discovery, expires in 2031, and this aligns with the expiration of the CFP deal 2032 and major conference media rights, creating a perfect storm for a total structural overhaul of college athletics. ADs from powerhouse programs like UConn are frustrated that only 20% of the tournament revenue is distributed based on performance. They are pushing for a weighted unit model where wins in later rounds pay out significantly more than early round participation. George, as somebody who has worked with a budget, pretty big one for high school, when I shared with you the 76 team tournament and the little behind the scenes why, as well as 2031, 2032 in the mix, what say you, sir?
What if we rewind the tape to I don't know how many episodes ago, how when did I tell you the super conference was coming?
Conference is not here yet.
It's not here. It's coming. It's coming because what are you gonna do? I mean, like right now, the way it's set up is that the kids, the kids that they used to miss on, that the big time programs used to miss on. Now they'll go to smaller D1s or whatever and get seasoned after 2 years, and now we can pay them to come over and play for us. So you're not going to see but so many Cinderellas, and you're not going to see Cinderella past the Sweet 16 anymore. It's not going to happen because all the kids that used to make Cinderella what it was are now playing for the Dukes, the UNCs, the Kansases, the whatever. Right? If you take
You're not going to get a George Mason 06 run?
No, because I can tell you right now, if we look back at it, Steph Curry at Davidson, he would have been a Duke after a year or two. You look at Damian Lillard, he would have been at UCLA or USC. It's not going to happen anymore. It's not happening in football because certain schools got way bigger budgets than everybody else because they can generate more money. It's all coming together, and all 76 teams is to put in A, it's a cash grab, and B, it's a situation to try to control this monster, which is out of control. I don't know why. See, here's the problem. They want to continue to tell us that, it's it's an even playing field, and we're doing all this for the kids. Why don't you stop feeding us a bunch of bullcrap and just be honest about it? This is big business. Let's treat it like it's big business. The ones that can be on that upper shelf, put them up there, let them play each other. The ones on the lower shelf, they got to go on the lower shelf. It just is what it is. They generate too much money. There's no way a North Indiana State is ever going to be able to generate as much money as LSU. It's not going to happen. It just is not going to happen. So stop pretending like it is, and let's just let it do what it does. Let that super conference get together. Let them go ahead and play. You will stop all the transferring. You will stop all the a whole lot of the movement will be cut way down. Coaches won't be going anywhere, and it'll be fine. And this will be over and done with.
Danny, you're my mid-major guy, and actually you're from a one-bid league, so I can even say it's mid-major. But you're here 76. What do you think about it, sir?
This is another way to get a bad Power 5 team like Auburn into the tournament. Let's be real. I mean,
it's the Auburn rule. It is the Auburn rule.
This is the Auburn rule. Because everybody was sitting there saying, Auburn should get in Upper Miami of Ohio. Not with that resume that they had.
No.
It should not have happened. Stop rewarding mediocrity.
Yes.
Please. That's what this is.
Nope.
So you're telling me that a team from the SEC who had a below 500 record in both overall and in conference is playing better basketball than a team from a one big league. Let's say, let's throw the Metro Athletic American Conference out there. They had at least 3 or 4 teams that was playing better basketball than the below 4 of an SEC. And you're going to sit there and tell me that those teams from the MAC are not playing better basketball, deserving in the tournament over those teams in the SEC who are playing terrible?
Yeah, SEC was a butt league too this year. Butt league this year.
Miss me with all of that.
Oh,
this
man.
This is a cash grab, like George said, and this is literally the Auburn rule. Because everybody was crying, Auburn should get in the tournament. They should be in. No, they shouldn't. Not with that record, not with the way they were playing. If they were playing the way they were in November, December, and continue through to December to February, we wouldn't have this conversation. All this is just another way to get teams like, let's say, another Power 5 team is when they want to get Virginia Tech in there. And this is another way for them to get into the tournament and to keep out mid-majors. Because George said it best. The Cinderella run is about to be over. I was talking about Super Conference for years, and now it's coming into fruition. I'm on George on that bandwagon. The Super Conference is coming. I don't know when. So
maybe the 76 team is the Band-Aid until they...
No, it can't be. Because we got football. There's no Band-Aid for this. There's no Band-Aid. Just like the baseball tournament. The SEC and ACC will have the majority of the teams, and they gonna want most of the revenue. So put the Super Conference together and get it over and done. I'm tired of this.
All right. So, fans, with that, in segment 2, we don't slow down. We speed up. We're going to talk roster management. A lot of talk in Indy about roster management. We're going to hear our panel's thoughts. We'll be right back on the Hot Coaches Podcast. Hi, everyone. Dr. Keith Adams here. And for over 30 years, I've dedicated my life to helping student athletes succeed, not just on the fields and the courts, but in the classroom and beyond. And that's why I founded the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project understands that finding the balance between academics and athletics is crucial for long-term success. That's why the CKA Save Project offers a range of programs, including personalized consulting, mentorship, and coming in 2027, our innovative Gap Year Basketball Academy designed to assist both young men and women reach their full potential both on and off the court. I'm incredibly excited to announce that the CKA Save Project is now partnering with the Cascade Sports Network. This partnership will allow us the opportunity to amplify our message and reach even more student athletes through the Odd Coaches Podcast and other exciting initiatives. Join the CKA Save Project and the Cascade Sports Network as we empower the next generation of student athletes. Visit CKA on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org to learn more. Let's work together to find the balance and help unlock your potential. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 2, the Wild West of roster management. I heard the Wild West so much in Indy, navigating the contractual chaos. So there's a no consequences culture going on right now in college athletics, and there's a significant lack of guardrails and standardization in terms of oversight in collegiate sports, leading to an environment where broken agreements often go unpunished. So a major point of contention is the legal fact that a memorandum of understanding and a binding contract, GMs are struggling. The fact that we have GMs in college athletics is interesting as it is, are struggling to identify the exact moment an agreement becomes enforceable. So the University of Washington, Big Ten school, has better lawyers than most of you. So they created a contract with their football player who tried to leave and mysteriously came back after reviewing the contract with different legal representation. So data suggests that schools using specific, detailed, high investment contract language, such as the University of Washington, see measurably higher player retentions compared to those with loose agreements. So while the Big Ten has established a quote, standard contract agreement as a blueprint, the SEC is still in the developmental phase of its own version, and the lack of national uniformity creates a fragmented landscape. Even more advanced models like the Big Ten's buyout clauses often lack specific terms. So we've got problems on top of problems in terms of building rosters. George, I am going to go to you first because you've had a number of players, former players in these situations that you still remain close with. When you hear about roster management now, what do you think about
Oh, what you just described does not surprise me whatsoever. The SEC is going to be the last group, because it's going to be the last group on board with a uniform contract. They're going to be the last group to do it because they've been doing under the table stuff to each other for years. So, and they've been the rogue league, and they're going to continue to be the rogue league for as long as they can. And I'll take the SEC. You can throw Miami in that bucket. Florida State and North Carolina can all go in that bucket together. There, because
it?
the
George, I do want to push on one thing.
what's that?
The Big Ten, for whatever reason, and maybe it's because they're strong academic institutions and they kind of know how to bootleg the system, has won in football, clearly, and in basketball. They were all over the tournament, and the SEC is starting to lose a little punch. So what say you, sir? Because the academic people seem to be beating the system better than the bootleggers and the slap them on the back guys. What do you think?
You go and I'm gonna give you a whole southern saying: the sun shines on the dog's ass at least one time in their life. So that's how they see it. Their way of doing it is, and I'm not saying it's correct. I'm not saying I agree with it. I think there should be one uniform contract that goes, and this is where we need rules in place to handle or to govern the way college athletics is right now. The SEC is going to scream for it. They're going to scream about how bad the situation is, and that's that and the other. But they're going to be the last ones that sign the dotted line to make the change, because as long as they can continue to do what they're doing, they're going to continue to do it. Listen, you got the SEC and with schools in Texas, in Alabama, and in Florida. Do you really think that they haven't been paying players the entire time and coming up with ways to pay them under the table? Texas Tech, for instance, got into the college football playoff this year. They had a conglomerate that pays players. Do you think they want anybody to mess with or mess up their system? It's not going to happen. So they will be the last group to sign on. So, but the thing that will get them there faster than anything else is to create that super league, because that super conference is going to be there because the money's going to be too big. So, like I said, all the SEC, Florida State, Clemson, uh, Miami, North Carolina, Texas Tech. You're going to take those couple from the Big 12 and throw them all in, and it'll be over and done with.
Okay. Now, Danny, I did try to hit a little data because, the last couple of years in football, the Big Ten's been rolling. And for this year, although no Big Ten team has won an NCAA title in a minute, Big Ten was all over the Sweet 16 and everything else. Is this a trend? When I sent you the information about roster management, what did you think about?
I think it's about time that they start to realize that the SEC reign of dominance, if you want to call it that, is about to be over because, like he said, the academics up north in the Big Ten are showing them how it can be done and maintain its success. Because, like you said, if you look through the entire tournament, it was a lot of Big Ten schools. I mean, a lot of them in the Sweet 16, in the round of there was a score of Big Ten teams in the tournament this year. The big, if I had to pick two conferences that played the best as far as basketball goes, it was between the Big 12 and the Big Ten. That was the argument the entire season. Which conference was playing the best? And after seeing the Final Four game over the weekend, you clearly see the Big Ten is miles and miles ahead as far as the top of the conference goes because they're able to go out and get these players that help their roster manage to help manage their roster. Michigan is pretty much doing something that I mean, Rick Pitino is probably the only coach who came out and said it straight up. I'm not getting to high school, so I'm going straight to the portal. Michigan it went straight to the portal, used their uniform contract, and is keeping these guys here to the point where they're having some of the best success that they've had since probably the Fab Five days. Michigan hasn't been on this run in a long time.
And Danny, I want to mention something that Dusty May said, and I really want to get George's thoughts on it. When we talk about roster construction, the example Dusty May used was nobody mentions that SGA got drafted by the Clippers. No one cares. So if I end up getting somebody who was somewhere else, why do you care? It's how we evaluate the talent. It's how we look at that, and that is a modern way of roster management. And I got to think, George, as the AD you thought about things in advance. What do you think about how Dusty's done the roster? How Illinois said, look, let me get these guys. And they never visited the campus, nor did they care. They like how Brad Underwood plays. And now they've got European guys coming up. We're just building a roster. And at Hood, I recruited what I wanted because that's how we played. And we're looking for guys to play a certain way. Your thoughts, George, because we'll push the other stuff to segment 3 with the NBA.
I think it's cyclical because it just rolls in waves. I think that the way it's going right now, you have a number of veteran good teams with sprinkled in with a couple of good freshmen. In those teams in the Big Ten. I look at football, which is mirroring some of the things in basketball. Indiana was put together like Michigan's teams and Illinois teams. So you're finding the right thing at the right time. But it's working? Yeah, it's working this year. Is it going to work next year? I can't say yet. It goes back and forth. I do know one thing. I do know that every year we get to looking at who's involved in the championship. I know that there's going to be at least 2 or 3 SEC teams there. Okay, when we're talking about football, I know there's going to be 2 or 3 SEC teams there consistently. That's going to be in the conversation. I know there's going to be at least 2. Well, when you add Oregon, there's going to be at least 2, maybe 3 with Indiana State. There's going to be 2 or 3 Big Ten teams there, right? So they can say what they want about, they're doing it this year. It's their Big Ten's year, yeah, in so many ways. We'll see where it goes. I don't see a big team baseball team being up there, but
too cold, baby, too cold.
They don't do well there. But what you can say it's this year, but next year and the year after, we'll have to see because the SEC has a proven record with this. The ACC has a proven record with it also. I mean, Duke and Carolina are consistent. They're consistent in baseball. Football, you got a couple teams. So the teams that the programs that continue to make money. And whatever the system their coach is doing, you're going to ride with it. You're not getting rid of John Shire because of a bonehead play by a freshman. He keeps you in the top top 5 every year, and you're good for a final 8 every year. So their money is going to keep rolling in. So you're going to stay with it, man. You're just going to stay with it.
That was pretty bad play. Danny,
Yeah.
close us out with your thoughts on roster management as we wrap up segment 2.
I think George had to kind of put a bow on it. It's working right now. The way that they're managing the roster is working right now. We don't know what it's going to look like down the line. Because, like you said, Michigan is having its success right now. They've had their success for the past couple seasons. Well, I'm not going to say Michigan. Dusty May has had his share of success with this roster management over the past couple seasons because there was no way you didn't think Florida Atlantic was going to do what they did without the way he was putting that roster together. So it's only a matter of time before we wind up seeing another coach doing the exact same thing over and over again. And it's going to change because now we might be talking about, it's back to the going out and getting all the young boys that are freshmen coming in and making your program a giant again. So this is just a trend that's hot right now. It's something that is working clearly because we're seeing the success out of a couple of programs in the country, whether it be football or basketball. So this is just a trend that we're just going to keep a lookout for because it might change. Hell, it might change next year. We don't know.
All right, that is fair. So, fans, in segment 3, we're going to do the NBA week in review. Don't have to talk about the Lakers too much anymore. We'll also talk about the 2026 NBA Basketball Hall of Fame, and we're going to let Danny go first. We'll just say it that way. We'll be right back on the Yacht Coaches Podcast.
Today's student athletes face pro-level challenges without pro-level support. The CKA SAVE project is here to change that. For 16 plus years, Dr. Keith Adams and his team have provided comprehensive academic and athletic support from middle school through post-graduation transitions. NIL guidance, transfer portal navigation, academic coaching, career planning, they've got it covered. The CKA SAVE project. When your future is on the line, experience matters. Learn more at www.ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Yacht Coaches Podcast in segment 3. It is almost playoff time for the NBA. So top 6, Pistons, Boston, Knicks, Cavs, Hawks, and Sixers. Play in Heat, Raptors, Magic, and Hornets, and lottery-bound Bulls, Bucks, Nets, Wizards, and the Pacers. Hottest teams are still the Hawks and the Celtics. In the West, OKC and Robert Abney, friend, our favorite administrator, is actually at the OKC game right now on a Sunday, so I'm looking forward to his pictures. San Antonio, the Lakers are 3 for another second or two. Denver 4, Rockets 5, and the Wolves are 6. I love those Prince jerseys, by the way. I got to get one. Play-in, Suns, Warriors, Blazers, and the Clippers, and lottery-bound Memphis. Why everybody dumping on Memphis? I don't want to particularly go there, but y'all should. The only thing I want to see in Memphis is the Lorraine Motel, and I'd like to eat lunch at Jerry Lawler's restaurant, but George knows I'm a big Jerry Lawler fan. That's about it. Dallas, Utah, Kings, and New Orleans. Hottest teams, Spurs, OKC, and it was the Lakers. But, yeah, that's a lot of injuries right now. So we'll see what happens. But I won't hold on to that. The Hall of Fame class of 2026 has come out. And a lot of WNBA royalty are in there. So let's talk a little bit about Candace Parker. She made it. Well-deserved. Elena, Donne made it. Well-deserved. You also have the 96 women's Olympic team, famous to George and I because they were on Martin that year. And that's always one of our favorite shows. Okay. On the men's side, Doc Rivers, currently 8th all-time in coaching wins with over 1,100, almost 1,200 wins for Doc Rivers. Amari Stoudemire represents the bridge from the traditional big man to the modern high-flying big man. You got, look, I'm trying. And I'm missing somebody. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. I cannot let George go first. Danny, what are your thoughts on the 20? Oh, Mike D'Antoni. Shout out to my man, FD. They love D'Antoni in Europe, and he did innovate a lot of stuff. So do we really have a problem with D'Antoni? I don't think we have a problem with D'Antoni.
No.
So Danny, you go first. I'll let George go second because he was disappointed with some of these selections and their credentials.
Where do I start? And I've said this to a number of people. Outside of Candace Parker, Elena Delle, Donne, and the 96 women's Olympic team. Why? Look, coming from a guy that loved watching Amari when he was playing in Phoenix.
Before the injury.
I'm
trying.
Before the injuries, he was on his way. Once he got hurt, that Hall of Fame card should have been ripped and thrown away.
Grant holds in, and he was injured. Everybody knew Grant was great, so nobody had a beef with Grant going in. We got a beef with Amari.
Whoa. A lot of people had a lot of beef with Grant going in there. A lot of people had beef with Grant getting in there because of the fact that early on he had his success early in Detroit, and then the injury happened. They were like, he shouldn't have got in there. I've heard a lot of people say that. So there's a lot of beef with Grant getting in there. I'm not one of them, but there was a lot of beef Grant to get in there. So I'm all right with Amari. I don't think Goff should have gotten in.
He got 1,200 wins and a championship.
What's that mean? He has had middling success outside of them years in Boston. He ain't done excuse my language, a damn thing after them years in Boston. So I'm not too particular about this Hall of Fame class outside of the three I mentioned because it's going to get harder and harder for me to look at these Hall of Fame classes as the years go on. Once the big names from this generation hits, it's going to be hard for me to think about a lot of these other players getting into the Hall of Fame because it's going to be slim pickings up to this point. But I am not a fan of this Hall of Fame class outside of the main three, and I'll give D'Antoni because of his international resume. Outside of that, I think it's an okay class, nothing to write home about.
All right. I have delayed it long enough. George, is it the Hall of Fame or the Hall of Very Good? What say you, sir?
I'm going to start off by how dare you even bring up Grant Hill with Amari Stoudemire. Grant Hill.
Just talking about the injury.
Grant Hill came in and he took the torch from Jordan because you remember Jordan was retired at that time. Don't ever put them in the same sentence, okay? Don't do that.
He transformed the modern big man. So
save that. Danny's correct. Delle Donne, Candace Parker, and the 95 team. They deserve going in. After that, we're not even at the level of Hall of Very Good. We're at the Hall of all right. Because Doc Rivers, his legacy is not the 08 win. It's how many times he's choked in the playoffs. How many times has he given up 3-1 leads? How many times has his team done that? How many times has the teams he's coached turned on him and wanted him fired? At least 4 I can count off the top of my head. Mike D'Antoni, subpar coach, couldn't get past the second round. Oh, yeah, he made great innovations, but he couldn't get over the hump.
7 seconds or less.
And couldn't get it 7 seconds or less to lose. So you got a bunch of couldn't get over the hump guys. So and Omari, oh, yeah, he was good. He got an all-star a couple years. Hell, Christian Laettner was all-star. So
hold on. Amari was a 6-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA. So that helps his resume a little bit. That helps it. I'm not saying he's a lock, but it helps it.
I'm sorry. I'm old school when the Hall of Fame meant you did something transcendent. You were considered one of the best players in the league. When the league
the argument that George is saying is, and franchise and did a deep dive on the 75. The history of basketball cannot be written without your name. That's what franchise punched me in the face with the NBA top 75 when we started this show. So, George, I think that's the argument.
That's where I am.
That's the side of
I'm
the
taking
fence
it-
you're on.
This is where I am. When you go, and I'll give you a different sport reference. Barry Bonds gets in the box. They walk him 4 times because they're scared of him hitting the ball. Okay, that's where we need to be when you say Hall of Fame, because we're talking about the best of the best. Correct? Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
So you're telling me you're putting Amari Stoudemire's trophy on that ledge?
What about the innovation of the big man?
No.
I don't know, but see, Keith, where you're talking about the innovation of the change of the big man, I can name at least 5 or 6 guys before I get to Amari Stoudemire as far as the innovation.
If you want to go ahead, Keith, I'm calling Kevin Garnett as the innovation to the big man. So you can't even give me Amari Stoudemire.
So, but you know what, Keith, is, and I know this is not the sport that I would be thinking about when it comes to this, but think about it. We're in a situation where people are still contesting Eli Manning getting into the Hall of Fame. And over the next couple years, he's gonna be waiting a lot longer to get into the Hall of Fame, especially for his position. Because if I'm not mistaken, number 12 is on the ballot as of next year, probably.
Roger Staubach's already in the Hall of Fame.
Now, you know exactly where I'm going, man. No. So it's with a lot of these guys who are mentioned for the Hall of Fame, especially in the NBA, we're gonna get into a situation where because they brought up Jamal Crawford. Should he get into the Hall of Fame? It's a crapshoot at this point with a lot of these guys. And I'm not saying Jamal Crawford isn't worthy. Jamal Crawford is one of the best 6 men to ever play in the NBA. You can't. I'm with Jordan. If you can't tell the story of the league without this person, then he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. So
I'll tell you this, and we got the problem with every Hall of Fame throughout every sport became when we stopped just letting a select group of players elect who needs to go in. When you start letting sports writers and fans have ballots, it muddies everything up, because then what your real value to the league has been reduced because of personal beefs and I don't like you and this. I need somebody that was there, that played against them, that knows what it's about. I would feel more comfortable. Like if Chris Webber came up and was like, Omari deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, I feel a whole lot more. I did feel a whole lot better. Or Kevin McHale came in and was like, he as a power forward, I deserve to be there. But that's not who's voting. That's not who's voting.
Hey, look, Keith George has a point with this one because I'm still looking for that one person who did not vote Derek Jeter into the Hall of Fame. That's where all of this got started. Who in their right mind was like, no to Derek Jeter getting the Hall of Fame? What is going on? So when you have people, when you have like the media, and I'm not gonna say all of the media, because there are a lot of guys in the media who have played and can talk the game and can tell you this person is Hall of Fame worthy. But there are a lot of guys, especially on the old guard, who are still Hall of Fame voters, who are putting in these guys because of a certain amount of accomplishments that they have. Like I said, with Amari, his early on career with his 6 All-Stars and his 5 All-NBAs, which means at that time he was one of the top 15 players in the league and was a top 5 player in his position. That helps his case, but that was early on. What happens afterwards also hurts, is also as part of your resume. And when you have guys who have no clue, they're not on the court, they can't talk the game, and not saying that they can't have a vote. When you have those guys making these decisions, you get a Hall of Very Good, which is what a lot of these Hall of Fames are turning into. So it's going to get to a point, like I said, it's going to get very slim pickings once the cream of the crop of this generation's NBA get into the Hall of Fame, because you're going to have a lot of question marks about these other players and whether or not they need to be in or do they.
All right. So before we sign off today, this sucks. I want to share a heavy loss for the Odd Coaches podcast family and for the coaching community as a whole. This week, we said goodbye to Coach Alfred Johnson, head men's basketball coach and assistant AD at Vermont State Johnson. To the world, he was a Titan, 300-win coach, loved his Philly teams, snuck them on the NFL show a couple of times, talked about the Eagles and the Sixers and the process. But fans, Coach Johnson was my friend. And we grew up in the coaching business together. And as I transitioned from a high school to a college coach, he was one of the first people to reach out to me and help. And when I left coaching, he was one of the people who reached out to me to help, whether it was surveys and research. And many of you don't know, Coach Johnson was going after his doctorate in part because he was inspired by me, some strange reason. And he wanted to do an extension of my research study on student athlete motivation. So when I did get the word that he passed, I'm just stunned. So again, this week, I'll be sharing some of my favorite clips of Coach Johnson on the Odd Coaches podcast. And I want to wish him and his family the best. So on behalf of our Cavalcade of Stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, also seen on the Cascade Sports Network. And we will see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on the X platform at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Keith Adams and the CKA Save Project on social media at CKA Save Project. For more information about the CKA Save Project, visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.